Can we go right back to the beginning for both of you, starting with you, Steve, and how you first got involved with Paul, so to speak?
It was a good old-fashioned blagging, Gary. It was like trying really, really hard to find a little spot for myself in the music business and trying to convince, firstly, Kenny Wheeler that I was worthy of allowing into the room, and then convincing Paul that I knew one thing about jazz, which I did, and blagged my way onto a TV show, kept my mouth shut, and 22 years later, I'm still here.
I mean, 17 years of age when you first started playing with him, you know, he'd already had, you know, fantastic success with the Jam. I mean, was it a sort of daunting prospect for you initially, when you think back? It
wasn't really, and I've spoke to Paul about this, is because the Jam, for me, were a band that I respected, but there was not that kind of fervour that most kids of my age had about that band. They weren't that massive, and as anyone that was around would know. So for somebody that was really impressed by that, I think it would have been quite intimidating. And because I'd been listening to jazz and to big band and soul music at the time, it wasn't difficult. I was able to go in with a fairly clean slate about just working with good musicians, Paul and Mick, and I think that was a good thing.
Damon, same question to you. How would you have first got involved?
Paul was really into the band I was in at the time, called Ocean Colour Scene, and Yolanda, who was the bass player for the Wildwood tour, and I think we made the Stanley Road album with him, had left to go and do something else. So he asked me to do it. I had to learn 40 songs. I got the call on Friday, gave me a list of 40 songs, and the first rehearsal was Monday, and he never told me I'd passed the audition. I just kept coming back the next day for 10 years. Sort of similar to Steve, you never get told you're actually in the band.
And again, I mean, you know, was it a sort of a, you know, because the man had, you know, such a history, you know, prior to you sort of hooking up with him. I mean, you know, was it a daunting prospect playing with him?
It was a little bit nerve-wracking at the start because the level of musicianship from Steve and Paul is far higher than anything I'd ever played with before. But it sort of kicked me into becoming a better player. And similar to Steve, the Jam were a band that I adored. And my sister liked the Style Council, where I was sort of not into that sort of music at the time. And since playing with Paul, I've got to appreciate the music a lot and the depth of the songs more.
How would you sort of say that, you know, the band has evolved in that sort of, like, you know, kind of 10 years that you have been playing together, that nucleus of the four of you?
I think we've grown to listen to each other a lot more. I think we all really, really respect and enjoy our role as part of the unit. And as we've got older, I think the whole ethos of less is more has become much more paramount to our live shows and to making sure that the whole thing, the whole band is moving as one, supporting the songs. And I think we're just having a great time doing it. We just love it. And we've all grown in confidence as we've worked together. Not arrogance, but confidence. We all really enjoy every moment that we're on stage. We appreciate it. We love the fans. We love the people that come to the shows. And I think we're doing this enjoying the fact that we're having a really great time, which is something that a lot of musicians don't get to appreciate until it's over. So we're making the most of it while it's here.
And what about for you, Damon, as well? You know, because it almost sort of seems like an intuitive thing with you four, doesn't it?
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, we got it together. I mean, when I joined in '95, we got it together pretty quickly because we did a lot of shows supporting the Stanley Road album. And then 10 years down the line, particularly making Studio 150, I would come in sort of every other week. They were in there, and I'd never heard the songs. And I just pick up the bass and we just play them straight away. First or second take, no messing, because particularly with me playing with Steve as a rhythm section, there is that intuition, and also I think I know what Paul wants for me to play, and which is very much in tune with what I would naturally want to play anyway, apart from the slap bass solo, which he didn't like.
Let's talk about him as an artist. You know, I mean, Steve, starting with you. I mean, how do you sort of think that, you know, that he's evolved over the years as a singer first, and also as a songwriter?
As a singer, I think the depth of Paul's voice now is quite staggering. I mean, he always had a great voice, but I think he's got a pretty amazing voice now. I mean, the fact that when you listen to this album, all the takes are pretty much live takes. Now, there's probably none of our contemporaries that would dare to go in and to put a live vocal down and leave it as it is. I think his songwriting has always remained at an incredibly high level, and I think that it's been really interesting for me growing up on a personal level and identifying, as Paul's songs have changed from maybe overt political statements from maybe the Style Council to much more his comment, and they're not necessarily about life-changing issues, but like a song like Frightened that he wrote a few years ago, which is just about the general responsibility of becoming a father, I think is one of the best songs that Paul's ever written. It's up there with all the best, but it's not maybe a trendy subject to be writing a song about. But, you know, I listen, the first thing I try to do every time I work with Paul is to try and understand what the lyrics are saying. And that's as important, much, much more important today than it ever was. And, you know, Paul is not one to have smoke blown up his arse or anything like that. We all know that. But, you know, there are very, very few people that are as all-round talented as Paul Weller. Simple as that.
Let's talk about the making of this album, you know, this covers album, because this is something that I think he's been threatening to do for a while, Damon, isn't it? Yeah,
it is. I think, I mean, you'd have to ask him, but I think it became the right time to do it. Having made, I don't know, half a dozen solo albums, I think, and having a lot of success with those, I think he felt comfortable enough at this stage in his career to actually do it, you know. I think he's got to the point where he doesn't really care what guy in News of the World or Enemy or Norwich Fishing Weekly thinks about, you know, oh, God, he's done a covers album. It's like, no, I want to do it. I've got the band to do it, and I know fans will like it.
What were your initial reactions to, you know, the songs that he's chosen? I mean, was there a kind of finished set list when you went into the studio, or was it sort of something that evolved?
It was something that evolved, definitely. I mean, I was given a CD that Paul had made up of probably 35, 40 tunes, and he really wanted to emphasise the songs that he felt that he could do justice to, rather than things that he would be expected to do. And I was quite pleased to see that there wasn't the obvious candidates in there. I'm quite glad there wasn't a Beatles tune and the Small Faces weren't in there. As much as I like all that, it was great to hear songs like If Only I Could Be Sure, which was not really familiar with, but absolutely loved. And we tried a few other songs. You know, we tried Gimme Shelter by the Rolling Stones because we enjoyed the vibe on the record, but we immediately knew that it didn't work. I mean, I like the fact that Paul stretched into things like the Black Is the Colour, a very traditional song, and I think he sings that particular song absolutely beautifully. And Wishing on a Star, that was you know, wow, we've got to have a go at this. It was great, and you know, I think it was a really eclectic, you know, selection of songs, and I think I personally can hear how much energy and fun we had making the record.
Well, you talk about that energy and fun. You know, Damon, tell us about, you know, the actual routine in Amsterdam that you had of making the record as well. Because I understand that, you know, you had a regular routine each day. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we sort of start about midnight. No. It was very professional, actually. It was sort of, right, let's meet at 11, which is normally about 12. And then we'd put maybe up to 3 tracks down by 8 o'clock. And then we go to a little pub called Cafe Chaos, have a couple of little beers and maybe a smoky, and then go for a curry or something, and then probably pack it in midnight.
Just kept it fresh. There was a good discipline about the recording. We started early. We wanted to go for fresh takes. Amsterdam is a fantastic city to be, you know, hanging out in, and we really enjoyed it. We had a good routine. The sun was shining. It was great weather for most of it, and we just wanted to capture some of that great summer, that great late summer. It was fantastic. I think it was one of the most pleasurable recording experiences that I've ever had, and we knew that it wasn't going to be hard to do this record, and as I say, it was great, and we weren't going for endless nights in the studio, 5 o'clock in the morning. It was like, well, if it ain't working, we'll come and do it tomorrow, or maybe we should do a different song. That was how we did it.
Do you think you'll take things from the making of this record on to the next album as well? I mean, you said about, you know, that sort of fun and you know, that sense of energy as well.
I think we will, but obviously the next record will probably be a different experience. But as musicians, we're always trying to grow and to learn and to be better, and just to be better all the time. That's the idea. So I think from this point, at this point, the fact that we played so well as an ensemble will hopefully be something that will be taken forward.
Steve mentioned a little bit earlier on, Damon, about, you know, some of his favourite songs on the new album. Well, you know, any in particular for you as well? And if so, you know, for what reason?
Well, for a personal reason, the Bottle Beach, on a selfish level, I think it's probably my best bass take I've ever done. And also, I love the song anyway, and I think the sound of it is fantastic, and you don't get songs anymore with that upbeat sort of funk sound with the flutes and the horns and everything on it. I think it's a very beautiful record, and also Black is the Colour, which I think is fantastic. I wish he'd let me play bass on it. Because his bass on it is terrifying.
I mean, you know, you mentioned, you know, the Bottle and, you know, All Along the Watchtower as well. You know, songs that we've heard done by other artists, and, you know, almost, I guess, sort of like definitively in a way, really. I mean, was that, you know, something that you felt, you know, a bit intimidated about sort of tackling a song like that?
I didn't personally, because we really wanted to get into the spirit of trying something a bit different, and I think that we've done the songs justice in our performance and our translation of those songs, and you know, at the end of the day, it's there's no reason to say that, you know, there's nothing in music that's so sacred that it can't be reinterpreted. It's taking these ideas, and, you know, maybe that if somebody hears our version of All Along the Watchtower, some of the younger fans that we have, who knows, maybe they'll go back and check out Hendrix's version or Dylan's version, and it's all passed forward. It's all passed forward. That's the way it should be, and we're not trying to change the world. We're just trying to say a little kind of nod to some great tunes, really, as musicians.
Do you think there's any songs on the album that will surprise people, that, you know, you've decided to cover them?
Oh, I mean, I think Wishing on a Star for a first off. I think people are like, why has he done that? Until they hear it, and as soon as Paul sings the first word, you're like, well, you're totally sold on it. And also, I think All Along the Watchtower, because people just think of Jimi Hendrix's definitive sort of wah guitar solo. I think that's why Paul didn't want to take it down that road, more on an acoustic sort of, almost like with a hip-hop sort of drum beat. And I think the whole thing is a surprise, particularly, as you said, the fact that there's no Beatles or Small Faces or Who, which would have been far too dull to do. You know.
And looking back, you know, that sort of 6 weeks that you spent making the album as well, I mean, any kind of sort of specific sort of highlights for each of you, you know, that kind of put a smile on your face when you sort of think back? I
think the night in the club where the cow was introduced into the proceedings was just amazing. It was fantastic. I'd never seen anything like it in my 22 years, and I still don't know how that guy managed to do it.
Damon, what about for you? Follow that.
Yeah, there was. I think it was when we did Close to You, and it was just as a trio. I think we had a sausage sandwich and a cup of tea, and just went and cut it, and Paul sang it and played the piano, which is a song that people could think, oh, that's really middle of the road or whatever. But the way Paul, the soul and the feeling went in it, it was very much sort of an English thing to do. Sausage sandwich, cup of tea, first take. There you go. Let's go to the pub.
Well, it's not long before showtime this evening. You're going to be doing a bulk of you know, the new album, and also a few other songs as well. A couple of Style Council tracks are in the set list. Looking forward to playing those.
It's been a real revelation to get a chance to play things like Ever Changing Moods again, and I'm desperately trying to get another couple of songs for the tour in October that are particular favourites of mine, especially now we've got the brass section. It's been a real pleasure to be able to get a second bite basically as a better musician to play these tunes, and they all sound so fresh to me. Listen, I love what I do. I'm having a great time. I'm enjoying it, and feel very privileged to be here after 22 years.